Spotting someone with a criminal conviction is not as easy as you think. The reality is that a criminal record can come in many shapes and forms. But when you're running a business or organisation, you want to recruit the best person possible for the job. So how can you make sure your system doesn't discriminate solely on the basis of a conviction? The facts are that in the UK, 40% of men have a previous conviction, and in Northern Ireland, 1 in every 17 has a criminal record. Many of these people are already in employment, doing skilled jobs in a variety of organisations. But for those seeking employment, having a record can close doors and present barriers before their skills or suitability for the job are even considered.
Any organisation wants to have the very best calibre of people in their workforce, and quite often an ex-offender could possibly be the best person for that job.
Because there's a significant number of individuals with convictions, there's actually a significant pool of potential employees out there for employers to consider. Unfortunately, our experience is that employers tend not to give consideration to individuals with convictions. And we would clearly argue that the individual's own ability, skills and motivation are the crucial factors in engaging in people in employment, and obviously the relevance of the conviction to the post applied for, rather than the conviction itself being a bar automatically.
We have employed people from other schemes, but the one person we've had who was a previous offender has been our best experience.
We have a very large pool of able bodies here that employers can get the benefit from, so they just cannot be overlooked in today's economy.
I think it's up to us as employers to give people an opportunity to prove themselves again, that they want to be good citizens and to live a good life. And I think certainly at Hilton we feel that we need to give people a second chance.
Sometimes people with a criminal record may become unemployed for a very, very long time, and in our view that is not a sentence in itself, but it becomes almost an additional sentence.
So, Michael, thank you very much for coming. Do you want to tell us why you're interested in working here?
During the recruitment process, you have a short time to get to know a person and assess whether they are right for the job and right for your organisation. With the recruitment of an ex-offender, there are some additional considerations. But if this results in you getting the best person for the job, they're well worth making.
You do need to designate some specific time to working with people who have a previous conviction, because they do need some additional support just in the early stages, and then, like everyone else, they can start to fly.
The resettlement plan now provides an opportunity for individuals to engage in a range of interventions at the point of imprisonment that will prepare them ultimately for release, no matter how long their length of sentence would be. JobTrack staff are based in each of the 3 establishments and work during that pre-release phase intensively on a one-to-one basis to support individuals in considering their options on release, not only in terms of employment but in terms of going back to education and or linking into other forms of vocational training.
A resettlement plan is an agreement between the prison service and its partners and an individual prisoner. It's based on an accurate assessment of need. That would be looking at educational needs, any vocational or industrial training needs, any offending behaviour or lifestyle needs, and any issues around addictions or perhaps some mental health support as well.
The training and education that is on offer within the prisons is really related to the labour market opportunities And staff within JobTrack, who are based in all of the 3 prison establishments, will work intensively on a one-to-one basis to ensure that individuals undertake appropriate training and qualifications during their time in custody, and that is actually continued through.
Generally, if I was working with clients, you would see them obviously prior to release, and then I would meet them when they're out of custody. I would then carry out an assessment or an individual plan with that person, and from that we would gauge what we need to put in place for their post-release support. If they've started NVQs in custody, like an NVQ in bricklaying, because there's no site element to that, I would ensure they were able to finish that post-release, whether it's through the tech or local employers and placement.
Hopefully by the time we get out of here I'll have that NVQ level 2 and then be able to do the NVQ level 3 and then move on from there, maybe get a job in the building site bricklaying.
I did a maths course, an English course, and did an access course, which is like it's designed for anybody that's stopped their education at 16, and it makes up for the A-level years that you didn't do. So after doing that, you've got enough qualifications to get back on course and get into university.
I have people currently now bricklayer, they just need a bit bruised up in their techniques, and then doing brilliant. Anybody that needs any skills, we'll develop them.
There's significant research that clearly demonstrates that having a job is one of the single most important factors in reducing offending or the potential for reoffending. If individuals are engaged in positive activity during the day and are seeking employment, that also in itself reduces the likelihood of reoffending.
Often a person can be right for a job, but because employers can't see past the conviction, they don't get a chance to prove themselves. Ex-offenders can't get rid of the stigma unless someone gives them a chance.
Nobody would ever wish my situation or most of people's situations in life that's resulted in a prison sentence on anybody. And I would say to employers, it's how you respond to that. Give prisoners a second chance. Give them a fair chance, an equal chance, along with everybody else, of proving that they have a meaningful role to play in society. Prison is a harsh environment for a reason. You're not going to repeat that mistake that you've made, and you're going to be hopefully a more determined and more committed individual to the workplace, because you know what it's like to have lost the quality of life that you had prior to your prison experience. So in many cases, prisoners can actually be more determined and more focused employees than people who have not had that all taken away from them.
In terms of employing people with previous convictions, to us it doesn't really matter in terms of point of interview. I mean, we will interview everybody and we will take them on face value. I think that's the most important thing, to say that we don't discriminate against anybody who applies for a job. We look at their personality, the skills they bring to the job, and first and foremost, that's very important.
When you have someone coming that you've heard has been an offender, has been in prison, you instantly react in a way which you've been programmed to. But as I say, once it is explained to you that the likelihood of reoffending is very low, then really we were only too happy to try and do it.
Legislation dictates that we all use fair recruitment practices that provide equal opportunities for all. Objective procedures and the correct treatment of information are central to this.
First and foremost, we would operate a confidential advice line, and that advice line really is a support mechanism, if you like, for anybody who is involved in the recruitment and selection process, specifically looking at the criminal convictions information. From I suppose an employer's perspective, what we're looking at there is maybe they would have a question such as, I'm thinking of asking the conviction question on the application form, how do I go about that? And again, it's a confidence factor and perhaps lack of knowledge. Other questions may be that an individual has disclosed details of a particular conviction. Can they go and pursue that further with the applicant who has disclosed that information? So really, I suppose the advice line will be a telephone conversation at that stage, with a view then to inviting those employers in to go through the training workshop that NIACRA would offer, which is really the fair recruitment of people with criminal convictions.
What we would request employers to do is, as part of their application process, have some sort of statement of non-discrimination, simply saying that ex-offenders will be looked upon fairly and won't be automatically debarred from employment.
I have attended personally a training and advice workshop, which has given us and allayed any sort of fears we may have had. Over the last couple of years, we've employed at least a dozen people with convictions, and so the experience for us, it's been a long-standing experience, and it's also been a very rewarding one as well, both for the employee and for the employer.
The Rehabilitation of Offenders legislation, as it stands at the minute, does little to protect any offender who has a criminal record to disclose. With the employers that we're working with, it's trying to get them to understand the nature of the offence that is perhaps disclosed on the application form or through the application process, and indeed getting them to look at the length of sentences and understand how easy I suppose it can be for somebody to be discriminated against because of a conviction such as a fine, which is disclosable for 5 years.
Assessing the relevance of a conviction to a post helps you decide whether a conviction gives rise to any concerns in your setting.
The first thing that an employer does need to remember when they are employing someone with a conviction would be looking at the risk in relation to what they have disclosed. Just to give you an example of that, would be possibly someone with a recent theft conviction wanting to go into work in a retail outlet. Obviously what the employer would need to do there would be look at a range of issues, and certainly what we would recommend to do is, well, what is the nature of that theft conviction? What sentence did the individual receive for that particular offence? How long ago did it maybe occur? Is this a one-off offence, or have there been a pattern of convictions really over a period of time? What level of supervision will there possibly be? And indeed, you know, will the person even be handling cash, or will it just be stock control, customer service? And it won't be easy for the employer to make those decisions, but I think they have to have some checks and balances in place in order to enable them to make an informed decision before they say yes or no to that final recruitment stage.
There's always a danger that, you know, any company can recruit the wrong person. In relation to this programme, the Job Track programme, you're actually, as an employer, going to be given a lot of information. The relationship is going to be based on openness and transparency, and essentially you will have a more fuller picture of the individual that you are trying to recruit than in the ordinary mainstream recruitment and selection process.
It's given me back a sense of self-respect. It's given me a purpose in life. It's kept me away from maybe the company and the people that I used to keep.
If they're enthusiastic and they really look keen and they want to do it, then give them a chance. And because we have here, and it's worked out perfectly, you know.
People who have been in prison don't want to go back there. They're more likely to be committed and determined to keep the job that they've got, and to be committed to not losing that esteemed position that they have.
I think we should all look at the same view and give them an opportunity to start again.
The person that came to us was certainly a very easy to work with fella who wanted to better himself. He had made a silly mistake and all he wanted was a second chance, and we were only too happy to give him it.
If I didn't have a job now, I don't know what I'd be at.
Well, the people we've employed with convictions are better workers, more determined, more get up and go, because they see they've got a second chance to get out there and see what they can do for themselves and do for us. We find they're very, very good, very reliable.
We've got a group of people who are enthusiastic about getting back into an employment, and with that comes possibly a greater commitment and longer term viability as an employee. So it's certainly a very useful and certainly a large group of added labour that employers can tap into.